You're headed home, the lights go on, and suddenly a cop is asking you to stand on one leg. Do you actually have to? The answer might save your license. Before we go any further, I need to be clear. I am not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice. This is strictly informational to help you understand your rights. Now, imagine the scene. You've had a long day, you're tired, and maybe your eyes are a little red from the computer screen. You get pulled over for a minor traffic violation. The officer walks up, shines a flashlight in your eyes, and says, "Step out of the car. I'd like you to perform a few tests to make sure you're safe to drive." In that moment, your heart is pounding. You want to be cooperative because you're a good person. But here is the critical piece of information most drivers don't know. In almost every U.S. state, field sobriety tests, those physical roadside gymnastics like walking a straight line or touching your nose, are 100% voluntary. You are not legally required to perform them. Why does this matter? Because these tests are designed for you to fail. They are subjective. The officer is looking for clues of impairment, like a slight sway or starting too early. Even if you're stone cold sober, being nervous, tired, or just having bad balance can make you look guilty on a police body cam. When the officer asks you to step out and perform these tests, you need to stay calm. Do not be argumentative or aggressive. Keep your hands on the steering wheel where they can see them. When they ask you to do the test, here is the exact phrase you can use. "Officer, I respect the work you do, but I'm not comfortable performing any voluntary field sobriety tests today." Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say I'm drunk or I'm refusing because I'll fail. I simply stated I am not comfortable performing them. Now, the officer might push back. They might say, "If you have nothing to hide, why won't you just do the test?" Don't fall for the pressure. You can calmly repeat, "I understand, but I've been advised not to participate in any voluntary field tests." Now, we need to talk about the breathalyzer. This is where it gets a little more complicated. There are two types of breath tests. First, there's the portable breath test, or PBT. This is a small handheld device they use on the side of the road. In most states, this is also voluntary. However, there is a second type of test called the evidentiary test, usually done at the police station. Almost every state has what's called an implied consent law. This means that by having a driver's license, you've already agreed to take a chemical test, like a breath or blood test at the station, if you are lawfully arrested for a DUI. If you refuse that one, you could face an automatic license suspension even if you weren't over the limit. So, the strategy for safety and de-escalation is simple. Be the most polite person the officer has met all day. Don't admit to having just one drink. Don't argue about the law. If they ask you to do the physical tests, politely decline. If they arrest you and take you to the station, that is usually when the implied consent kicks in, and refusing at that point has much higher stakes. If things go south, start documenting immediately. If you have a passenger, have them record. If you're alone, try to remember the officer's name and badge number. Once the interaction is over, write down everything that happened while it's fresh in your mind. This documentation is your best friend if you ever have to see a judge. The goal here isn't to get away with something illegal. The goal is to make sure your rights are protected and that you don't accidentally give the state evidence that can be used against you unfairly. Stay safe, stay calm, and know your rights. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this with a friend who spends a lot of time on the road. We'll see you in the next video.